Howdy ho, friends and foes, and welcome to Dads on Life, your weekly episodic show on parenting from a male perspective. I'm your host, Jason Miles, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Keith Bogan,
Good morning, Butthead.
Doug Hammondike,
Got to get a better tagline myself. Oh, wow. Do I even want to be part of
and
this then?
and Dave Dusenberry.
Holy cow.
Not
Cheers.
you, him.
Oh,
First off, before we start, I want to just mention that yesterday actually marked the fourth anniversary of the start of this show. Um, it's been it's been an adventure, for sure. It's certainly been when we started this 4 years ago, in the middle of what we were in, with the world going through in quite possibly more insane times than we are now, slightly more, at least in the U.S. involvement of what was going on in the world at the time. You had the election, of course, literally within a week or two of the show starting, we had everything happen in Minneapolis, um, and other such things since then. Uh, we've survived barely the pandemic, um, and the world has moved on. But here we are. Also, not only that, but unless my count is off, we will be if we aren't hitting the syndication number today, it will be within the next couple of weeks. We are also recording just about our 100th show. If back in the
What I
day,
want to know is how many times have we violated FCC protocol? I mean, seriously.
yeah, okay. Um,
So the show number now matches Keith's age. Noted.
yeah.
Got it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. You finally caught up to me.
Anyway, today we're going to be talking about the story that, well, has been slowly breaking since November when I first got wind of it and got reports about it, or actually late October. Um, but things finally have shaken out, and there's been an indictment of the wife of and a sitting board member of the Old Bridge Board of Education for stealing between two PTAs and several other organizations, including the Sarahwood South Rebels, um, and I believe a basketball league, $64,000, possibly more when all is said and done, from various organizations, largely including stealing money from the children organizations, the PTA and things like that. Now, the big caveat is he is a sitting board member of the Board of Education. His name is Leonard Marchetta and his wife Dana. They were arrested about 3 weeks ago. Now, an interesting caveat is after missing 3 meetings, they can remove you from the board. Well, last week, Marchetta crawled out of the woodwork and showed up at the Board of Education meeting, accompanied by his security team, his mid to late 80s parents, which went over pretty well. Let's put it that way. So, who wants to kick us off?
well, I was wondering, Jason, did you go to any of the meetings?
Mm-mm.
No. I just mean that,
No, the meetings are Tuesday and Thursday. I'm actually usually at an AA meeting every Tuesday night. So,
I just was wondering, uh, if anything was missed, with, between the news report and what we're talking about. Um, so I just mean that oversight in government, just being since I do work in small government, I town councilor,
mhm.
we do make a lot of laws, it is very like I can't imagine like where I work and what I do and the amount of oversight I have on anything that I approve is unbelievable, impeccable. And
Mhm.
then working in small government, when you start to see the breakdown, and it's like, wait a minute, you don't? Me coming from the business world, it's just like I just assume that everybody else operates the same way, and they don't. And it's scary that like things like this happen, you know. And in my own town, we've had our own issues with things like that multiple times between multiple mayors and stuff like that. And it's unbelievable. And isn't Mr. Machetto, or however you pronounce the name,
Marchetta.
a pretty new guy too? He like really fought for his
He's
spot.
finishing. He's finishing his first term.
Right, yeah,
I.
and I remember, reading some of your stuff about
Mhm,
how hard he was, like, fighting to do this job, and to see
mhm.
something like this is just unbelievable, and, I mean, back to our kids and all, what kind of message does it I mean, this share with our
Totally.
kids
Totally agree with you.
that, like, you know, this is the way, adults do, and
Right.
I mean, I would think that there was some kind of, like, I don't know, premeditated version of this as well, like, you know, with him,
Mhm,
getting into the business and then where we are
mhm,
now. Like,
mhm. Well, their platform was putting children first. And the headline of the article that I sent was they put themselves first, obviously, him and his wife. Now, there were three of them that ran on the slate three 3 years 3 years ago? 3 years ago, I believe it was a 3 year term. Uh was Darren Architelli, Jay Slade, and Marchetta. Now, noticeably over the last, I would say 2 years, the other man who got on the board on that ticket has shown a vastly different track from where Marchetta went. Marchetta kind of stayed that line and took the position pretty much to serve himself, obviously. Slade, on the other hand, has kind of looked at it and said, well, okay, put his political beliefs aside, put his personal beliefs aside, and has taken a tact that is much more palatable to a lot of the parents, because a lot of the parents that were against him and went against that whole arc have kind of stepped back, looked at it, and said, Slade really isn't a bad guy. And he's just being honest and trying to be very fair in the job that he does. Um, I've actually spoken to him through email. Haven't seen him public. I've only seen him publicly once. Um, Coming out of the YMCA parking area, walking his dog. Um, and to get a chance to talk to him, I've said to him, I said, you might actually have my vote at this point come November. So people change, and that's part of progress.
I got a, I
uh,
got a, I got a question. So obviously, I'm not as into this particular town politics discussion in Old Bridge, being a resident of Hamilton, and so I'm not as knowledgeable on the inner workings of what's going on. I know you mentioned something earlier on that he ran on the topic 3 years ago of putting children first in the town. Obviously,
Correct.
that's a pretty generic phrase. A lot of politicians do that, especially town council folk. Um,
Mhm.
in the 3 years that he was in office, did he actually pass anything or push any initiatives or actually get anything done that actually lined up with that credo?
Um, he was the deciding vote in Old Bridge doing away with um, Bill 5657 or 5758 about protection of the teachers protecting students from telling their parents about LGBTQ, about their uh, sexual beliefs, their gender beliefs, whether they may be transing and things like that. Of pretty much uh, not forcing teachers to tell, but taking away the protection of teachers from protecting children on their beliefs.
Basically
So
saying that
pretty
if parents request a disclosure, teachers have to disclose that, or
no, they do not.
not passing. So passing a law where the teachers don't have to disclose to the parents if the children don't wish to.
Right, that was the law, but the
Okay.
law was changed, has been voted down in Old Bridge that they don't have to, but they're not protected from not telling.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So all right. And again, like I said, I'm not as into the inner workings. So look, the overwhelming topic that we're going to talk about today is corruption and stealing money from township, which is really, really bad and directly affects the students and obviously us as parents. You know, that's one of the things we talk about is parenting from a male perspective on this show. So, you know, anything that directly impacts students in the towns, especially that are utilizing the school system and you know, the resources and the activities and things like that in the town, that money's getting funneled away and not those programs aren't available to kids. That is a direct impact on what we choose to do as parents.
Mm-hmm.
I will chime in, by the way. You know, like Dave points out, if you're not in that specific town, it's a little hard to relate. But you know, certainly if it was here in East Windsor, and if I had school age kids, I'd probably be hopping mad, and I'd probably be hopping mad anyway because the town that I'm in, East Windsor Heights town. But the thought that kept running through my mind as you were talking, as you were introducing the topic and really getting into the detail, was the comparison I have, and bear with me on this, to youth sports, in the sense that whenever adults get involved in a kid's activity, they screw it up.
Right.
People who run youth sports leagues or people who coach in youth sports leagues, 9 times out of 10 are there because they failed in the rest of their lives and they are desperately trying to find something that they can exert some power in because they have no power in their lives. And it goes sideways because it's the decisions they make are routinely either only about their own kid or certainly not in the best interest of the kids. So it doesn't surprise me that school board members who are human as well, who probably have no other power in their lives whatsoever, wind up effing up the same way. Although this is much more egregious in that it has such a financial impact, depriving many children of programs that Dave talks about because they are greedy and they steal. But the comparison to so many other things in life is really interesting. Once again, adults blindly do things and hurt the children that they are supposedly there to serve.
Yeah.
Right. Here's the thing. The PTA was about $42,000 of this. There is 12 to 13,000 at least that do have to do with sports organizations. The Sarewood South Rebels football team being one, and Marchetta was also highly involved in a basketball league here in town. Now, that said, also in Old Bridge, about 2 years ago, actually, the case came out. Sorry, the case came out right before the rumors about Marchetta's dealings started to come out. There was an Old Bridge soccer league that was robbed of about $90,000 last year by two parents. With that case, he was removed. The husband was removed from the case. The wife took the fall for all of it, and essentially was just ordered to pay back the money. Other than that, faced no jail time or anything like that. But which is always a good thing, which is a wonderful thing. Now, the thing here in Old Bridge is they have shipment of money. There was a box that was shipped through UPS that was supposed to have contained money, which was found to be empty.
Why are we shipping money? Like, so here's
shipping a check. There's supposed to be a check in it. There was no check.
So one of the things that I talk a lot about, especially when it comes to governmental agencies, and especially local and township agencies. This is a non-party type of thing. Is that I don't understand why budgets, incomes, expenses, and all of that seem to be there's a large effort to obfuscate them wherever possible, whenever possible, so that the members of the town or the citizens of the town or the residents of the town, like there should be a clear way that you could go in and see what's coming in and what's going out, where it's going. Like that seems to
Mhm.
be I've always been an advocate for that at every single level, because then full transparency dissuades people from taking money that they should, and also shows you what amounts of what percentage are going to things that you like, that politicians support, that can then influence where you want to vote. Show me where you want to put my money. I'm giving you this money. Where do you want to use it best? And that will base my support or non-support for you. But
Mhm.
there needs to be a clear place where that can be seen, because
Mhm.
as long as that's documented and transparent and everything, if all of a sudden, because again, I'm not smart enough to watch that every single day and see where the money's coming in and coming out, but there are people that are. As soon as you start seeing, $5,000, $10,000 going missing from the ledger here and there,
Right.
um, it's it that should be a red flag for everybody in the township.
Well,
Depriving people of information is how you maintain power.
Yeah, it's power
It is,
control.
it is throughout all of life, not just
Yeah.
all of politics, but throughout all of corporate America. It is throughout all of life.
Yep.
And
But
you're saying will never happen if humans are involved.
But
But
well,
it
I
can.
mean, we do provide a budget every year. I've been to
Mhm.
other towns and stuff. We provide a budget every year. We do make everything accessible. You always have a right to know request, and we get inundated with right to know requests. So at any time, any person
Right.
that lives in any town can, or you could go even to a town council meeting and ask for that information, as well as the PTA board, which works
Mhm.
similar to small government. And that information is out there. I mean,
See, what I'm saying is, I'm sure, of course, it's out there, but getting it and having it in real time at any given point in time can be and is a logistical challenge for those that don't know the inner workings of government. I'm talking about throw up
I
a web interface where you can see income and expenses coming out. What's in the budget? See, like, I want to see, I paid X amount of dollars for taxes this week. Okay, well, that money's coming into the general fund. Now,
well,
based on our project, it's going to go here, 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 and here, and then see those numbers in real time.
you see, my problem is that working in small government is that understanding what you're looking at.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
And I admit,
I
I'm
mean,
not smart
that
enough to
info,
know what all of that stuff is. But if it were available in a web portal, there are people that are smart enough and would follow that stuff like a hawk.
we do have one person in town that does,
Yeah,
and he is unbelievable in his meticulousy of what
good,
he does,
good.
and
Right.
That's a valuable resource.
he
Mhm.
has uncovered things from time to time. I'd have to say.
Yeah,
So
Sure.
I think that it does happen on some level, but it's just very difficult to like. I mean, I come from marketing, and I have I work with accounting very closely, and looking at like the town's things, I think things should be better described in what we are doing, and they're not. So
Mhm.
it's more difficult. I mean, this guy spends a lot of time like tracking everything down, and he's well versed now that he's been doing it for a couple of years.
yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult to understand how it all connects. Let's
Just
say,
Right.
like
and
you're
just
saying.
imagine that. Just imagine that one guy being able to be multiplied by potentially hundreds, because there's more than I would imagine that there's more than one guy that has some pretty advanced accounting experience within a
Mhm.
given town. And if all
Right.
of that stuff were made available in a form, whether it's some type of report form, spreadsheet, database, things with running tabs, things like that, where you can see money coming in and going out, look at the ledger items. people would see patterns that are familiar with what that stuff looks like, and they can then, because the one
My
thing I
argu-
always say is when you want to enact change, um, it's difficult to push for change when you don't have all of the information that you need available to you. So things like you mentioned, going to town council meetings and bringing up issues and things like that. That's all well and good, but I like to be prepared when going into a town council meeting, and having that information readily available to talk about specifically would be something that I would be very interested
my experience is that people don't care.
in. Well, exactly.
They care after it happens. Then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
everybody's excited for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They're all worried, and I mean, he's taking it to Facebook. He has his own page
Yeah.
and stuff. And the amount of people that visit his page is just the town council. You know,
Pol-
it's
pol-
like,
Politics works very well with a apathetic reactionary society. People who are reactionary, they only talk about what they're against. They don't talk about what they're for. They don't plan, they don't prepare, they don't propose. Politics works very well with that type of society, and I will readily admit that there are a majority of folks, certainly in my town and throughout this country, that approach things that way. They only care after something happens. I also know people though that really want to know where their money goes, like line items, where they want. My brother has been pushing for this for years, um, and I think there's a lot of merit to that. And I think, as Keith mentioned, um, making information difficult to get, or or hiding it behind red tape or obfuscating it, is a way to maintain control. That makes all the sense in the world. And when it comes to government and power, control of that power is absolutely paramount above everything else.
well, I just
Everything
think
else.
people that work in most towns are volunteers. I'm a volunteer.
Yeah.
Everybody
Hmm.
on the council is a volunteer. We make
Right.
the
Anybody
budget.
on a board of education, man, on a board of education is
So
volunteer.
I don't know if necessarily we're trying to horn power or try to hide anything. We're very transparent, and I'm in a very small town, so I assume people in larger
Sure.
towns have more oversight and transparency. I mean, we're totally transparent, 100%. My the team that I work with, and oh,
Well, I would warrant to say
so
that at some level of local government, there is a lack of transparency that allowed the transactions that we're talking about today that Jason broached at the beginning to
I think
happen.
it's oversight. There's nobody watching what's going on, or nobody that
which is also
understands.
intentional.
Yeah.
That's also an
I think
intentional
that
act.
from what I've seen is that there's no oversight or people that are actually understand what's going on.
Hmm.
That's getting well organized people and are paying people to do their job. You know, when you got volunteers doing it, who anybody could get. If you get 10 people on on a single form, you could be voted in. I mean,
Right.
you know, so you know, what is their background? Why are they trying to be on? I mean, these questions don't come up, and now we just started a thing to interview people who are actually um going to join any part of government to see if they are qualified to be on to work for government. Because before this, we didn't. I mean, we just anybody that got 10 votes, hey, you're on the bill to, be voted in, and you get 100 if you're friends. Because I live in a small town. If you get 100 people to vote for you, you're in.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
so without qualifications, if you're a known thief or whatever, hey, you're
Doesn't
in.
matter.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of it comes down to oversight. That
Yeah.
there people to be able to read and understand what they're looking at and not just look at it.
Are there personnel in Old Bridge, Jason, that would be responsible for the oversight that you're talking about at the heart of this issue that we're talking about today? And what the hell happened to them?
I think there are now, or there will be. I don't believe there was. I also believe when some of this started, uh, she was the wife was the treasurer, and I believe she might have been She might have been the treasurer of the football team as well, or he might have been. So, yeah, you can sweep certain things under the rugs, I guess. And as a board of education member, he probably could sweep certain things under the rugs as well. So, um, now there's other possible interesting things with the board of education going on in Old Bridge right now, and I won't exactly say more than that, which is exactly what I said in October when I heard about the Marchetta story. The thing is, I had inside sources that could verify that that this had happened. I knew in October directly from two or three sources who it was, what had happened, um, and everything that was going on, pretty much with it. Won't get into how, but I knew it was the truth. I mean, there's people saying, "Well, there wasn't, it's all rumors. It's over." No, it wasn't. It was not all rumors. It was pretty well known what was going on when it broke, and it wasn't just from friends in that were running for board of education or involved in Old Bridge Township. It was people that were involved in other organizations that worked closely and knew the Marchetta family and were astonished and shocked when it happened. Um, and I mean, I can speak for my friends of watching the husband who is of a woman the woman who is the president of the Soft PTA, which is one of the ones involved. Um, Watching him go through this process, um, has been heartbreaking to watch because this is a man who has certain struggles in his life that he's trying to combat and stay on top of, and he's got all of this on top of it, and on top of that, his wife being investigated. Because everybody was investigated.
Good.
Yeah, I understand that, but
Good.
like I said, it was
You do wrong.
heartbreaking to watch.
You do wrong. You
She
should
was
get investigated. I mean, I
she
have
was
no problem with that. I don't care who you
the
are.
woman in that part of it was cleared of everything. She did
Okay,
nothing wrong.
that's fine.
So, but
You
you
still
know,
go through the process.
it was hard, yeah, but it was very hard on him. Um, he made it.
Now,
He made it
was
through
it
it, and actually,
was it an internal investigation? Like, we looked at ourselves and we found that we did nothing wrong type of thing, or was it like actually vetted by
oh
like an
no,
outside?
no. She was investigated by Kathy, who was the investigator of the whole thing, who investigated the Old Bridge Soccer League
He's
and got them on it.
he's law
She
enforcement, correct?
she is law enforcement.
She's law enforcement. Okay.
Yes, she's law enforcement. She's an Old Bridge, I guess, an investigator for the Old Bridge Police Department, and it seems to have a nose for these kind of investigations. She's done, I think, three of them now,
Good.
and has a pretty good rate of getting to the bottom of the truth. Getting to the truth.
It's funny because that alone should tip off voters that said we've had to call an Old Bridge Police Department and this resource to investigate not one, not two, but three different issues in terms of potential corruption going on within our ranks. That's got to tell you that there could be a pattern going on here. And again, speaking directly to the voters, I'm surprised that people running for their seats don't bring that stuff up and say, these people were investigating multiple times. And I understand that incumbents have an inherent advantage in any election because people are very comfortable with who and what they have.
Oh,
but dude,
no.
if I was running against them, I'd be like, these guys are crooks. Get them the hell out.
Now I will say the slate of candidates has not come out for November in Old Bridge, but it is believed that maybe I don't know if he's going to be on it or not, but no one's forgetting this happened. So if he does have the balls to run, we know what's going to happen.
Well,
unless
I would say no one's forgetting.
Well, I mean,
we've all seen in our relative electoral processes that people that are not very good or have a history of potentially questionable issues can and do win re-election in certain scenarios. So I mean it's a personality game. And if this person is an incumbent, they have an inherent advantage to winning their seat because incumbents always, in every election that I've ever seen, have an advantage when it comes to electoral runs. Always.
Well, it's very
Yeah,
easy.
but let's be honest. I can allude to one thing for sure. Let's remember Marion Barry. Okay, let's bring that whole thing up. Of not that he was a couple of years removed from his situation. This is still going to be open in the election cycle. No one is forgetting this is going on. It's going to be in our faces as the election happens. Now, um,
If
with
his
that
opponent
said,
wants it to.
with that said, um, they were attached to a certain party's ticket
There you
in
go.
that election. I'm wondering if any candidates running are going to be attached to anyone's ticket this year after that.
But why wouldn't they?
Well,
There's power in
for
tickets.
for a long time in Old Bridge, they did the best they could to, well, actually, in Old Bridge until about 7 or 8 years ago, our Board of Education elections were in June. They were not in November. They were changed to November to increase voter turnout. Then some people started some people on one side of the aisle started to attach Board of Education candidates to their ticket. I have a feeling that may stop now after this goes down. Or at least certain candidates definitely will not be attached to that side's ticket at all. They are going to run from him as quickly as possible.
I'm a little
Jake
confused, by the
Slade,
way. If I could just throw this in real quick. Why are candidates for school board attached to political agendas at all?
um, okay, I will speak on that. I was in South Carolina 2 years ago in Charleston at election time. In South Carolina, you have political affiliation running as a board member.
Okay, but we actually have intelligent people here in New Jersey, so why are
I'm saying you asked that question. I answered your question. In
why
some
are
states,
we should
in some places they have political affiliation when they run on their board of education
I
ticket.
think it might make sense to have blasphemy for me to even suggest the idea of elections that are not connected to the political elections,
Right.
even if it means less voter turnout. I don't care.
I mean, I
But
understood the point of why they moved it, but I hope that party learned their lesson now. I'll put it that
but I
way.
gotta say, to follow up with Keith is exactly what you're kind of alluding to, is that if you vote the Democrat ticket, you voted for all of them or Republican. So that's the thing that, here in Pennsylvania is the same thing. Unless you like hand go in and change your voting thing, uh, you're voting for all of them. And
That,
I mean,
Wait,
I,
so
that's why
are you saying in Pennsylvania you have political affiliation in your board of education members?
yeah,
yeah.
You do. Okay.
yep.
I mean it makes
I'm just curious. I'm
yeah.
not knocking
It,
your
it
your state's
like I said, it makes all the sense in the world to have political affiliation for these candidates because there are a number of people that vote party line. You are
Right,
basically
exactly.
guaranteeing yourself a certain percentage of voting that you would not otherwise have without political affiliation. It sucks for the township residents.
mhm.
Um, but if the bottom line is winning votes to get office, and we know that local and township the voting numbers for local and township folks are lower than for House of Representatives, Senate, and national races, right? Historically, it makes sense that if you want to maximize your vote and get people, I know plenty of people that just vote straight party line. They go into their voting booth, they vote straight party line for every single office on there. They don't even know who these people are.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
it makes all the sense in the world to do that.
Well, I can tell you, um, that was the first 2021 was probably the first election where people knew in Old Bridge who the Board of Education candidates were because those three were out there and all over the place, putting their name out there and putting, their information out there, which I won't get into the one battle that I had because we actually have to do this as the topic of one of the things. Um, Eventually, within the next couple, I hopefully within the next couple of months, I'd like to do this. Of one of the positions they ran on was being anti comprehensive sexual education, which was part of their ticket. Um, Now, I will tell you, I won't get into details of that whole thing, but um, the biggest problem with it is who puts forth the rhetoric of the anti-CSE movement, and that is a religious organization, if you want to call it that, um, called Family Watch International, that is on the SCLU's list of hate groups. So we will get into that, another time. But that was one of the things that they walked had were on the ticket for, and that was something that I kind of went at Marchetta personally about questioning his, and he dismissed me of that has nothing to do with the it doesn't matter where the information came from. Well, yes, it does. Um, so uh, yeah, it's an ugly situation as to what's going on. And if anything else of the reports are true, it's about to get a whole lot uglier on the Old Bridge Board of Education. Um, Now there is Dave. When we first when I first introduced this topic, you had brought up another point, another side of this that you wanted to discuss. Do you remember exactly what I'm talking about? Because
I believe it had to do with with teachers unduly influencing children in a compromising way. I think I mentioned a story like that in Hamilton, something that we've seen all too often scattered throughout the nation, right? And it broaches the topic of we had not I wish I could say this was an uncommon topic, but I think I could speak openly and to all of our audience and say they've all seen or heard or experienced potentially something like this in their towns about a teacher um, being um, basically put on leave for inappropriate relations with a particular student. Um, and it goes to the heart of people in power and using their power and influence um, to directly affect the children in our neighbor in our communities, right? Um, there's a there's a parallel for that, less physical and more financial, with what you're talking about. People in power using their power and influence to unduly and negatively affect the children in our neighborhoods, right? That, as a parent, is something that I try to be very aware of. I try to stay as knowledgeable about the people running as I can. I try to find, and I'm not one who shares I don't share a bias for political affiliation. That's not my thing. I like to look at your policies. I like to look at your platform. I like to see if you're doing what it is that I want you to do. And I don't care what letter you have by your party. That doesn't matter to me. If and there's two challenges with that. It's what are you saying that you are going to do, and what can I reference to actually say that you are actually going to do what you say you are going to do. So there's two parts to that, and it's the second one that always, at least historically in my mind, trips people up, because especially people running for office for the first time or aren't new, there's no basis for comparison to say that you're going to. That's why when we kicked off this conversation, I said, this person ran on this platform for 3 years. In the 3 years that they were there, what did they actually do that aligned with their proposal at the beginning of their term. That issue of precedence for me matters quite a bit. It's a lot more challenging in local elections where I'm not as knowledgeable of the people running for the offices that they're running for. I can only go on in their campaign promises and hope that they'll do what they say they're going to do, which is um, you get mixed results at best. Let's just put it that way. Um,
That's putting it mildly.
exactly. So, and all of that, right? You say one thing and do another. You do that over a period of 50, 60 years. That leads to what Doug talked about. That is voter apathy and voter disengagement. People don't want to get involved because it's the same old thing all the time.
Right.
And that is a self-perpetuating cycle. You now add on to that, throwing in political affiliation, because now you have a given race and you don't have enough. You have, you know, 120 people voting for an office. You have a township of like 60, 70,000, but only 120 people voting for a thing. And well, I guess I'm going to take the results of that, elect this person to this position of power. Like that's weird. That's why they do political affiliation, because people are apathetic about being involved in local political issues. And so they align with a party, get on the election in November when everybody's in the voting booth anyway. And then you just, a lot of people, straight party line down. I don't even know who these people are, but they're under the D category or they're in the R category or they're under neither of those. So, hey, that person's got to be good because I don't like either of these two jackasses. I don't know. I don't recognize these names.
I don't
And
know you from Adam. Yeah.
while that increases vote totals, that doesn't necessarily increase voter knowledge and engagement.
Right.
And that's a bigger, and what the solution is, I don't know. The only thing that I can think of, I can tell you right now that when I vote for my local town elections, trying to find information on all of the candidates that are running takes time. If the township had a single page that had sub pages that could link to every single candidate for every single office that would bring me to what they stand for, and I could go to one place and look for all the candidates, that would be freaking awesome. But that's not done because the people in power don't want people running against them to have a potential place where you can see what they are about. You know,
They
I
they
take time to look for these people, and sometimes it's a pain in the ass.
in Old Bridge they send out a questionnaire that pretty much if the candidate answers the questionnaire, it gives you, and it's posted online on the Board of Education website, I believe, gives you all the answers to most of the questions that you might ask. The problem is, not all of them fill it out.
Of course.
Well,
Is it a
It's
is it a paper
required
is
them.
it a
mandatory.
paper questionnaire?
I don't know. I have no idea.
If
It's
you
like,
I don't know
required them
exactly.
to fill it out before they could be put on the ballot, well, what do you know?
Yes.
you get engagement.
Yes.
By the way,
Yes,
I'm
that would be a good
laughing.
idea.
I'm sitting here laughing at you guys, not at you guys, but laughing at the entire subject because you're you're suggesting that there's actually people running against each other, which is a foreign concept here in East Windsor. I just filled out yesterday my mail-in ballot, and I've been here 29 years. I don't remember the last time that where it says school board vote for three, there have been more than three candidates.
Really?
Yeah, we don't
That-
have that here. It never
Yeah,
That's
happens.
unusual. That's
It never
unusual.
happens. Nobody cares. So you can't even get people to run for the freaking thing.
There's always about 6 or 7 at least
Oh,
in
hell
Old Bridge.
no.
Oh
We
yeah.
have the same problem with township council. Nobody dares run against our mayor for the last 25 years because, well, I don't want to say anything because we're in a public forum, but let's just say that people are terrified of her. So township council vote for two. There's always two candidates. I think I've seen in 29 years, I think I've seen a couple of times when there was an extra candidate or two. But school board, I don't remember the last time there was more than the available slots. So it's actually a foreign concept for me to hear what you're talking about. We don't know, talk about apathy. Nobody gives a damn here.
I agree with Keith,
Huh.
and like I said, nobody wants to volunteer. Nobody wants to do these things. Takes a lot of your time. I mean, and I think I've said this that it might be impossible to do, but everybody should have to serve on some kind of board just to understand what it takes to actually do these things. 'Cause a lot of things you usually are talking about, there are reasons why uh we don't have like people's like information up there about what they're running for and
Hmm.
rules and with
Oh, sure.
Oh, by the
like
way, and nowadays nobody wants to run for political office because guaranteed, if you have people like you do in Old Bridge, people are going to dig into your background and tear you apart. And God help us with AI, they're going to create all sorts of false shit about you. So nobody wants
my
to be
wife
in
hates
public
it.
spotlight like that.
My wife hates it exactly for that reason. She's like, because now everybody's peering into our like private lives. And I mean, we're talking about a small town of a couple thousand people. Like,
Hmm.
and exactly what Keith's saying, but I do it because I love this town. So,
I mean, oh, that sucked. um,
but
well,
I
I
do,
mean, I've
I do
sorry, go
have
ahead,
one
Doug.
other, I do have one other topic if you want. It only take a couple minutes.
Sure.
Keith's gonna love it. I have a son who is turning 18 and will be able to vote this year in the election.
Me too.
And I do. And
Yeah.
well, he will be in July.
Yep. Mine just turned 18 in March, so I understand of what you speak.
And we started last night. I'm like, "Are you gonna watch the debates with me?" And he's like, "Absolutely." I mean, for us, we know what the debates are kind of gonna look like, but for him, it'll be the first time to actually sit down and watch a debate with him. So it'll be interesting, especially
Isn't
when
that
his
fascinating? Because my
it,
kids enjoyed watching the debates before they could vote, and now they have no interest.
all
They
right.
vote. Don't get me wrong, they vote,
Yeah.
but they don't have any interest in the debates.
All right. Well, sure. I could understand that. I mean, they've seen me watch them, and Heather will watch as much as she can before she's just like, enough of this. But
June 27th is going to be such a clown act. Oh my God.
it was also confusing. Like, how do they even like register anymore? I'm assuming motor voter, but he said that wasn't clear when he went to get his license. I was like, are you not remembering, or you don't, or it wasn't on there? I just thought that yeah, it was like a motor voter thing nowadays. But
I honestly can't freaking remember. Can't tell you how we did it. I don't freaking remember.
I mean, I remember going to post
It wasn't
office signing
online, I don't
for
think.
services.
Definitely wasn't online.
Yeah.
It wasn't online, and I don't think registering to vote was associated with motor vehicles when I first was voting.
It is now. They ask you. I believe they ask you.
Well, I mean,
They
I
ask you if
registered to
you're a
vote.
registered voter. I guess I assume you can off of that now.
I had a Model T when I was registering to vote, so I can't help you there.
So it'll be exciting times for, I guess, with the Duesenberry household and the Hammond household with, what our kids will pick up from us.
But if your kids, if your 18-year-old is like almost every other one, the disenchantment with both major political parties is 100%. So
Yeah, I know. And I breached a little bit on the third party candidate idea and how we actually have one. So that did come up as well.
let's not go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. But it was an
Yep.
interesting conversation we had last night about it because I don't know. It just dawned on me. I was like, wait a minute, you're going to be able to vote.
Were you saying that with pride or with fear?
Yes.
No, it was initially with pride that
I've said for years that I'm excited about the younger generations moving on and moving forward to turn this world into the world that they want as opposed to the world that us older folks want. Um, I've changed, especially in that realm, is um as slow as molasses. It just grinds. You have to wait for people to die off before, in many cases, before you get a chance to really enact some type of change that you're looking for. And you
Oh,
just got
well,
to hope
wait.
that the people that you want in there don't get jaded in the 40 years that happened in between that time.
Well,
You
wait a
know,
minute. There's a number of people in Congress who died years ago, but they're still standing there voting. Come on.
we believe in zombie politics in this country. That's just the way it goes. But and I said, for my son and for my sons and for my daughter, you know, the world, I try to get them active in researching candidates and looking at issues. I'm very big on looking at policy stuff. I try to keep them away from political opinion influencing and swaying them, but just instead look at policy and what they've actually done instead of what they say they're going to do. It's a big thing with me. But with the way that especially tools like social media are designed, it's designed for more of a political influence and not a policy influence. TikTok is a very popular example of that. Short clips that designed to get your feelings up, either get your emotions all raged up or whatnot, get you influenced in thinking a particular way as opposed to basing it on something actual policy driven.
Mhm.
Less vetting and more just taking somebody else's opinion for facts. Uh, some of my children have notably gone down that path, and I've been there to say, listen, I understand that they feel this way. All kind of people have opinions on this stuff. Let's look at the actual law and see what it says, and try to
Mhm.
encourage them to go about doing it that way instead of just reacting, as we talked about at the beginning of this call, where people only care when something bad after something bad happens and when something bad happens to them. They don't put the time in ahead of time. They only care with the reaction after the fact. Um, and I believe that those are tenets that make a more educated voter and allow them to be able to vote with their conscience, whether that person wins or not. Ultimately, a vote, I believe, is a personal choice in the direction that you want to see this country go towards. And it should always be, in my opinion, what you want to vote for as opposed to what you want to vote against. I'm not big on reactionary votes. I'm big on proactive actionary votes, I guess you could call it. And to do that, you need information. You need policy platforms. You need stances. You need all of that type of stuff. And those are the things that are really hard to come by. And again, you're going to have corruption anyway because people always throw a lot of BS out there and then don't do what they're going to do, as Jason alluded to at the beginning of this call of the person that we're talking about.
Mhm.
They ran on a certain platform. At the end of that platform, not only did they not do what they said that they were going to do, they were a net loss financially for the township. Um,
Yes.
so eh, you know, maybe I'm preaching a little bit here, and that's fine. But now that we're bringing it around and talking about our kids, I think the onus is on us as much as we possibly can to practice what we preach and cast intelligent, reasoned votes for policy platforms that we support instead of voting for one guy because he's not the other guy. And B, passing those traits down to our kids so that they can emulate that, potentially use that moving forward.
Also wanted to give my son some props. He lettered in two different things, both the debate team and also science Olympiads.
Oh, cool, dude.
Nice.
So
Congratulations.
it was like one of those things where it's like so many people were like, "What sports does he play?" Well, he doesn't, and it's like, wait a minute, but you said yeah, he did.
You can let it
Yeah,
in
there's
non-sports
other things
things.
you can letter in
Oh,
stupid.
that's always an interesting conversation. But yeah, very proud of that.
Nice, nice.
So anyway,
So are they going to throw this jackass in jail, Jason?
Um, it's
Or should
possible.
or should they?
It's well, they should. Um, I think maybe it should go a little further than they did with the soccer league,
Mhm.
but they should because you kind of have it. It also depends on if any of this happened to cross state lines.
Mhm.
There's, like I said, there's wire transfers and things like that. If one of the wire transfers ends up having gone to someone, even if they're in Staten Island, that's other issues there. There's definitely other issues, or Pennsylvania or anything like that. There's other issues that have to be covered there. Um,
Sadly, like Jason said earlier, it's very difficult when it comes to the town stuff. I think they should be held to the letter of the law, and they should. But as I've seen with our not sitting mayor, but a past mayor who stole from the church and from the town thousands of dollars, it was exactly what he said. They paid it back, and it was that was the end of it. It's
now,
unbelievable, and I don't know how legally that works.
I guess different areas, different towns, different states. Um, I guess there's one difference in the fact of it being one being school related, one being in Old Bridge here being a sports league. I mean, there could be a difference in the case, obviously, and punishment of what they may do, which, where the schools may actually, it being a draw on the school is one of the biggest issues of this. Of besides from legality, there's the other side of this of it being actually a school. So that's where you kind of really get into um, this needs to be everything needs to be out here on the ledge and on the edge so everybody can see everything of what was involved. They kind of swept the soccer league by us of her punishment. She was punished in January, and it's kind of like, what? Wait, what happened?
So I have a question. I have a question for you, Jason,
Sure.
and this will go for Doug too, because you guys are more involved in this stuff locally. Um, uh, and since we're bumping up against our hour, I figure I'd throw this in as a way to cap it off. We've identified the problem. We have re-identified the problem. We have re-identified the problem.
Yep.
Is there any solution?
Yeah. What are we going to do about it? Ultimately, ultimately the power comes down to the vote, what people do with it. Now,
Ultimately he should go to jail. Both of them should. But um, the first step, 100%, is voting him out. If it has to come down to it, he can show up at every third meeting not to get kicked off the board. It's voting him out for sure. 100% voting him out is the big key here. And then she's already been removed from both school boards, so that's one big step. She's out of it. Now we got to get rid of him. Once we get rid of him, then we can let um, the legal system have them and let them decide what is fair punishment. We do not have to agree with what they deem fair punishment,
if
unfortunately.
if he gets reelected, is he able to escape accountability?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He should not be, because if it was kind of just she did everything, he could, but
I was
he
going to
has
say,
involvement.
see, I didn't say should he elude accountability. I said, can he, if he gets reelected, is the possibility there that he can elude accountability? In other words, does his level of office, whatever he's running for, give him the potential benefit of eluding accountability for what he did?
Dave,
Nope, because
Dave, are you talking about Old Bridge politics, or is that a
Yes. I know.
national?
I'm
Was
specifically
that a
talking about Old Bridge
national
politics.
question?
I'm specifically talking about Old Bridge politics because people in power have the ability to influence those around them to um, basically sweep things under the rug
I
or
have
whatnot.
no
It
idea.
happens in local politics all the time.
That sounds awfully familiar. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm
look,
going to shut this down now because we're going to go into
any
rabbit hole.
similarities to any other political type of thing are strictly coincidence. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think we might have lost Doug.
Oh, I'm trying. No, he's there. He's here. Just lost audio. Just lost video. I hear him.
He was obscured by the cat for a while, so it could be that.
Cat butt strikes again.
Yes. Very beautiful cat, by the way, Doug. I just want to call it out.
Okay,
He's not out, so yeah, I had to go
Yep.
capture him at the neighbor's house. He's our 20
I think
pounder.
that's jeez. I think that's a pretty good place to leave us. Actually, we are heading up to my brother-in-law's. Um,
Okay.
Hey,
so
let me throw a couple more things at you before you go, and we're not going to talk about them. But if you want to have another conversation about this,
no, I really
should
need to get
everyone in the town be eligible to vote for the school board, or should it only be the people who have kids in the school system? And by the way, should everyone in the town be paying taxes for the school, or should it be only the people who have kids in?
That's not a rabbit hole. I don't
We're
think
not going to
any
go
of us
down that,
really
but
want to go down right
I'm
now.
sitting here thinking, but why am I so disconnected today? Because my kids aren't in school anymore. I'm not doing it intentionally, but I'm in a different phase. And you know, people who don't have kids in the schools don't give a shit anymore. They don't even care there's illegal things going on anymore. They're
Yep.
moving into other things. So
I could
anyway, that's a
I could
different.
say I could say that Delaware gives you a break on your property taxes once you reach age 65, and you don't have
Yes,
to. Yeah, you get
yes.
exempted from that stuff.
Hmm.
Anyway, moving on. You can shut it down, Jason.
Okay. I want to thank you guys for now. Dave's been here for 2 years with us, almost. I want to
It
thank
feels like
you
longer.
all. The other three guys who, although Chad's not with us, I want to thank you all for 4 years of doing this with me, and here we go for year five.
I
So from all of
remember,
us here,
I was
Go
gonna
ahead,
say,
Doug. Oh,
I remember the day that Jason called me to ask me to be on the show. That was a lot of fun too.
that's cool.
we need to
'Cause
get we need to get Chad on here, and we can actually talk about this in depth a little bit more of how this show came about. We'll do that in the coming weeks.
Let's
Um,
make a fifth year commitment to be more consistent about having the show.
well, your kids are graduated, so you don't have any excuses anymore.
I
We can.
rarely, listen, if I'm, high up for the graduation, that might be an excuse, but usually I'm here.
I am in favor of returning to a weekly episodic podcast rather than a monthly and or occasional episodic podcast.
Let's not forget that Chad recorded most of a year and a half of shows from Colombia.
And I've recorded many of them from the road, so bite me.
Yeah, there's a difference between
I mean, good. Look at
living in
Dave.
Colombia
Dave
and living
records
on
them
their
while
time.
driving to Washington, D.C. You, on the
I'm
other
not
hand, want to
driving.
go. You,
I
on the
I
other hand,
oh
Jason, you want
no,
to go to.
I'm driving. I leave my phone there and then I chime in.
All right.
Jason wants to not postpone the show if he's in the gym. I mean, come on.
Okay. Come on. I need to get going.
All right.
Go
So
ahead.
from all of us here at Dad's on Life, take care, everybody, and of course, Keith, please eat my shorts.
Chompy, chompy, chompy. Later.